in that project, you started to look into kind of building the data architecture. What were some of the things that you looked at? What were some of the solutions that you investigated kind of early on?
Right, and that's a very good question. So what happened there is that, like, yeah, of course, we said, shall we buy another black box or go in-house? We, of course, went in-house. So first thing we did is an evaluation, right, of different technologies that they were over there, back at the time. And so we started that, and we put, I think it was in the end like 10 technologies that we did put in the context, and some of them, big data is a very evolving, kind of landscape. So there is a lot of solutions, a lot of names and things like that. So I would say that actually the vast majority, 6 out of 10, we ruled them out because, they were just not mature enough. Like, I remember, like, in 2016, 2017, like, ClickHouse was, not mature even to be considered. Like, you could not ingest data from Kafka in any way. So that's so many of them, they were ruled out. And then we remained on the plate with Cassandra, with InfluxDB, Elasticsearch, and Druid, right? And I would start maybe from the easiest, like Cassandra. Like, we started looking into it, and we understood pretty quickly that it was too low level for what we were looking for. Like, the Cassandra was, you had to do shard the data over partition by yourself. It was very low level, right? So you should really have gone for some solution that is based on Cassandra, and we didn't find anything that was really inspiring us, I would say. And then the two more interesting are InfluxDB and Elasticsearch. So I would say that InfluxDB, it's a pure time series database, right? And so essentially what happens is that, whenever you want to do, any sort of operation on the timestamps, like InfluxDB, it's a rocket, like it works perfectly. But at the very moment in which you want to do any sort of operation on any of the other dimensions, right, that's where the problems start, right? So imagine that, we said, right, so our use case is flow analytics, and then, or our original case was flow analytics. So it's like you get a huge, square, a huge, multi-dimensional, actually, traffic matrix with a lot of dimensions, right? And the exercise that you want to do, all the time is to compress this matrix, to reduce this matrix, right, to the dimensions that are of interest to you. And the moment, so in other words, like, we should translate that. I mean, it's like doing group bys in SQL, right?
Right.
And the moment in which you try to do that on dimensions that are not time with InfluxDB, I mean, it just doesn't work, right? So with any sensible amount of data, it just didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And
I've heard similar things. We've talked to a number of people that are moving off of InfluxDB just because, and in a lot of cases, it's a scalability performance problem. And as you're saying, once you go outside timestamps, it really really doesn't work. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No. That's great. That's great. And the other thing is that, like, Elasticsearch, right? And so Elasticsearch, it was, working for us. Like, we did give it a try. But then as soon as we started to put some meaningful amount of data into it, right? And then we had it side to side with Druid. Then we quickly realized that, it was taking more resources than Druid, right? So Druid was taking much less resources, maybe even up to half of the resources that Elasticsearch was requiring. And I have always myself attributed that to the fact that, Elasticsearch is a document-oriented database. It works with unstructured data. So essentially it does a lot of, there is a lot of machinery on top of, the basic database part, which can impact performances, right? And so the moment in which you work with the structured data, you totally don't need any of that extra complexity. For sure, there are some use cases for that, but not every use case is about unstructured data. And so essentially you don't need that complexity. And so why paying for that price, essentially?
Yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. Well, luckily, you ended up selecting Druid, and moving forward with Druid and Imply for sure. What was your reasoning behind that choice? Like, why was Druid kind of the final, like, hey, this is what we're gonna move forward with?
Yeah, that was because, let's say, first of all, I mean, we did this evaluation phase, and essentially it was the top performer, right? So we were, making our scores and whatever, and it was, the top performer. And then also the fact that, also from, we were starting to operate, this evaluation phase didn't last one day or two, right? So it lasted a few months actually. And so you have, since we were evaluating that not in the cloud, but on premises, right? So you also get an idea of how the database is performing as a software, right? So forgetting it is a database, forgetting there is data into it, right? So is it stable? Is it not stable? And things like that. And so also on that perspective, Druid was, very well working for us. It was super stable. You hit some limits or something. I mean, you find, something in the logs, and then maybe it performs a little bit slower, but the daemon is always there running. It's not just abandoning you. And that was not the experience that we were having with others, like with other software, right? So I can clearly remember, quite a few times where, Elasticsearch, it was just bailing out because some JVM parameter was exceeded, probably related to heap and to memory and things like that.